And I got nothing. I got nothing to say about that loss, but we'll find something to talk about. Today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, a lot of that lately, about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. Let's talk about last night's game, because I did sit and watch the entire thing, so we might as well talk about it, right? Just it sure was a game of hockey, right? The Blue Jackets are gonna finish the year with one win in the second half of a back-to-back. Now, I know they still have one left, but that's against Washington, and let's be honest, my hopes are not high for the Blue Jackets. If the Blue Jackets can't win games against teams around them in the standings, I don't know how we can expect them to win games against teams that are much higher than them in the standings, like the Washington Capitals. Now, the Capitals might end up resting guys like Ovechkin. They've basically clinched the East. He's hit the goal record. So like they really, they might as well take their foot off the gas a little bit. I don't think anyone's going to catch them in the standings race. And I know that, it's you don't necessarily want to go into the playoffs on cruise control, but they are 9 points up on second place in the East. So I think one more win will clinch the East for them. And that's probably going to be tomorrow night's game against Carolina. So we'll see how that goes. But my point being, the Blue Jackets are in free fall right now. They have fallen completely out of playoff contention. It's not happening. Like, they would have to, if they lose to the Senators tomorrow, which we'll talk about in a bit, if they lose to the Senators tomorrow and Montreal wins against whoever they're playing, that's it. That's mathematical elimination. The Habs will be, I believe, 10 points ahead of them, and the Blue Jackets can't catch them. So essentially, it's game over, right? But even just looking at this game in a vacuum, it wasn't good enough. Like, yes, the Senators are a good team. Yes, Linus Ullmark is a good goalie. You can't have a start like that and expect to come back, right? 2 goals in the opening 5 minutes of a game. Yank Tarasov. I am not putting the blame on Tarasov for this, and I don't think Dean Everson is either. That is, I think I tweeted about it, actually. I was like, at least look like you pretend to look like you're caring, because the Senators started that game on time. The Blue Jackets did not. That was I'm going to put Elvis out there. You damn well start playing like you're an NHL team, right? Because that was a god-awful start. One of the worst starts of the season, probably. Like, you are on the outside looking in of the playoffs. You need to win every single game from now to the end of the season. And that's what you bring to the opening 5 minutes of this game. Like, unacceptable. Erica Branson was god-awful in this game. Jack Johnson was exactly who he is, which is Jack Johnson, right? Like, I was trying to think, I was like, okay, good things about this game. Are there good things about this game? Like, I thought Sean Monahan was good, but that's not enough to win you a game, right? They changed the lines around. It sure was a group of lines. Like, looking at the 5-on-5, the only good line in this game was Johnson, Monahan, Jenner. Now, admittedly, they moved a bunch of the lines around and everything got shuffled up. But that was, they were on the ice for 25 shot attempts for and 11 against. That was the best line by far. The second best line was Chinikov, Sillinger, Olivier, which went at 50%. 5 shot attempts for, 5 against. So, like, again, not creating anything, but not giving a ton up either, which, frankly, at this point, I'll take. The Fantilli line bled offense. Like, yeah, they created, but they also gave up a ton. They gave up more than any other line in less ice time. The fourth line was the fourth line, right? Functionally useless. Shockingly, like, adding Unikov and Van Riemsdyk back into the lineup did not magically make this team into a playoff team. Like, I still think that this is a better lineup than having Cunnin and Aston Reese in, but not, like, it doesn't make enough of a difference, right? You're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks right now. I talked about this a while ago. I think probably the last time that they got shut out in back-to-back games. Like, they've been shut out 6 times since the outdoor game. 8 times all season. 6 times in the last, 14 games, 15 games? Unacceptable. At a certain point, you just have to grit your teeth and get through it, right? And they haven't really done that yet. Like, they've had some good games since then, but they've spent a lot of time, like, just kind of fumbling and trying to do the right thing, and it's just not working. And I do think, I talked about this. I think I've talked about this in, like, a billion different episodes. They're out of gas. Emotionally, physically, whatever, right? Like, it's not lost on me that the most effective players have been Sean Monahan, who just missed, 35 games or whatever it was. Boone Jenner, who missed almost 60 games, something like that. Like, they have jump in them. They look like they're trying. I think everyone else is just done, which kind of sucks. And, like, again, it was unsustainable playing Zach Werenski for 27 minutes a game every single game. Like, that's his average. He has played less than that in some games, and he has played way more than that in some games, and it's not sustainable, right? Like, this is a drum that I've been banging for a long time. And it just, last night, this whole weekend, really, because I thought they looked pretty lifeless against the Maple Leafs as well. They just look done. Like, they don't have anything in them, and the schedule is not going to get any easier from here, right? They're still going to play the Senators again tomorrow. They've got to play the Capitals twice. They've got to play the Flyers once, who they historically don't play super well against. Like, there's only a handful of games left in the season. You could have gone out with a bang. You could have played playoff spoiler for a bunch of other teams if you weren't going to make it, because it seems like Montreal has decided they're making the playoffs. But it feels like you lost your balance, and instead of, like, stopping and taking a breath, you just, like, overcorrected massively, and you've kind of been swinging wildly basically since the 2 back-to-back shutout games, which would have been the Florida game and the Vegas game, I want to say. That was when everything kind of fell apart. And now here we are. And the Blue Jackets are, I believe, have the 10th best lottery odds now, which a month ago would have been unthinkable, right? A month ago, we were planning on what we were going to do with our 2, like, between 16 and 24 picks. The Wild are kind of teetering on the edge of falling out of the playoffs. It's going to take a big push from Calgary to get in there, but, like, the Blue Jackets currently, they have a top 10 pick, potentially, and a top 16 pick, potentially. So there's a lot to look at there. Yeah, it's disappointing to be in this position again forever. And I was trying to decide, like, is the 70 games of hope and then this brutal fall off at the end better than just being brutal all season? Because, like, at least if you're brutal all season, then you expect it, right? This just feels like a real gut punch. But it is what it is, right? They were bad in this game. They need to be better next game. Like, you have to start trying. Credit to Elvis, actually. I said that Monahan and Jenner were the only guys that looked alive. I thought after pulling Tarasov, I thought Elvis was excellent. He played 53 minutes in total because they pulled the goalie at the end for they scored an empty net goal. Elvis only allowed 1 goal on 23 shots. Like, I don't know that I'm going to call this a good Elvis game, but it sure is. Like, it counts, Like, he's been brutal for the past 2 weeks, so obviously this game where he comes in and has to play, from 2-0 down he was excellent, and the Blue Jackets couldn't get anything going. Again, Almark, very good goalie. We knew this. Credit to Elvis. He was good. It's just a shame that, again, I feel like we've been banging this drum for a lot this season as well, which is when the goaltending shows up, the offense doesn't. When the offense shows up, the goaltending doesn't. And they kind of managed to outscore a lot of those issues earlier in the season, and now they've just run out of gas, right? Just a brutal game. Disappointing in a lot of ways. But it's not the end of the world. This is not the end of the Columbus Blue Jackets, right? They regroup, they come back. Don Waddell's going to have a big summer. What do they need? Is it time to start looking towards next season now, right? Like, is it time to start looking, okay, you need to figure out goaltending. They want to improve on defense. They need another top 6 winger, ideally. Like, they've got a bajillion dollars of cap space. What do they do with it? So we're not going to talk about that in any great detail, but I wanted to kind of sketch out the off-season plan for Don Waddell, in my opinion. Anyway, so we'll do that in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about Indeed, because you just realized that your business needed to hire someone yesterday, but how can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. I have been in a spot where I need a job yesterday, and Indeed is the first place I go. I think it's the best job site when you are looking for a job, so I can only imagine it is just as good if you are looking for a job. That's why Indeed Sponsored Jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidate right now. Now, you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're not going to talk anymore about the Senators game because, frankly, I don't want to. And I thought I would put as much effort into talking about the game as they put into playing the game, which is maybe mean. But I wanted to I was thinking about this last night, again, as I was watching this team's playoff hopes just continually get lit on fire and stomped on. This team needs to improve in a couple of areas. They want to add. They need depth. They need another top 6 winger, ideally. They want to revamp the D. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that, because revamping the D on the fly is kind of how they got in this situation to begin with. And the goaltending, they need to do something about the goaltending, right? I don't know what the something is yet, but they've got to do something about it. So let's start. I've talked a lot about, mostly joking, do you go out and get someone like Mitch Marner, for example, who is a UFA, pending UFA. There's been a lot of smoke around. Does he want to sign in Toronto long term? Does he want to go somewhere else? This, that, the other. He's having an incredible year right now. He's going to be expensive. But that feels like a piece that you win with, right? I don't think he wants to come to Columbus, or he didn't want to come to Columbus when they offer sheeted him, but that was, 6 years ago now? Something like that. Columbus is a very different team. There are pieces here that he probably wants to, he might want to play with. You give him the opportunity to play next to Adam Fantilli and Kent Johnson for the next 10 years or the next 8 years, and, that might appeal to him. It's probably a bit of a downgrade going from Toronto to Columbus, but it feels slightly more likely now than it did at the beginning of the season, right? There was a lot of pipe dreams about, let's go get Mikko Rantanen, let's go get Leon Draisaitl, let's go get this, that, and the other. Mitch Marner doesn't feel like super achievable, but the Blue Jackets have the cap space. They have the potential, right? I think this season, the last month of it aside, has shown that this team can do good things. So Mitch Marner is definitely an option for me, anyway. In terms of other players, I go back and forth on Well, I go back and forth on like what do we need? What do we want? Do we need like a big defensive shutdown defenseman? Do you need a more dynamic defenseman? Do you need like a young guy with potential to grow, or do you need someone that is kind of still young but is probably more or less who they are as a player, right? Like again, the defense, I have been like going back and forth. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one is that trying to improve the defense on the fly is what lost Jabba Kekalainen his job at the end of the day, right? Like you go out, you trade assets for Ivan Provorov, who admittedly has been quite good this year. It's kind of fallen off lately, but so has every Blue Jacket. So I'm not gonna like condemn him for that necessarily. But his first year with the team, he was brutal, I thought. He's improved a lot this year. I still don't think that they should re-sign him. I still think that he should move on. But the bigger problem is Damon Severson, who they gave up assets to sign for an extra year. He's still under contract for another 6 seasons. This team has been in must-win mode for the past little while. He's missed the last 3 games. My guess is he probably draws in against Ottawa on Tuesday because, again, like, you got to do something, and you might as well try, but I'm not expecting him to be a difference maker in any way. And like I said, under contract for another 6 years and is just not good enough for the amount of money that the Blue Jackets are paying him, right? However, what do you do about that? Straight up, what do you do? You know, there's very little, I think, anyway, that you can do there. Do you buy him out? Maybe. Do you try and trade? Do you throw an asset with it and just hope that you can get that contract off the books? Maybe. Do you just do anything you can? Again, like, do you retain? Again, the Blue Jackets have $1 billion in cap space. What do you do with David Severson? Right? Like, it's a tough job. So that's kind of, again, I'm hesitant to go out and get another guy who might be in the same position. Like, you might just put yourself in the same position, right? Like, you managed to get Severson off the books, and then you saddle yourself with another 6, 7, 8 years of a guy that is not good enough for what this team needs, right? The other reason that I'm kind of hit and miss over what the Blue Jackets should do here is because who's available, right? Like, I'm looking at the board right now in terms of like pending UFAs. There isn't a ton of good ones that are out there. Like, according to Puckpedia, their best UFA for defense is Neil Pionk, who is in the 4th year of an almost $6 million contract, has 37 points in 66 games, is admittedly quite a good player for the Winnipeg Jets. He is 29 years old. He's going to be looking for that 6, 7, 8 year deal, right? Because that's going to be his last deal. He wants to get his payday. He's in a very similar position to Ivan Provorov, right? So he wants that. He's going to want that last deal. Another option is Aaron Ekblad, which I have kind of been thinking about as well. But again, he's 29 years old. He's currently suspended for steroids, which is the whole other thing that I don't think we necessarily need to get into right now. He's got 33 points in 56 games so far. I like Aaron Ekblad a lot. And if you can get him as not necessarily like a redemption project, because I don't think he's at that level yet, but if you can get like 4 years of Ekblad, probably about the price tag that he's doing at the minute. This is providing that you can get rid of Severson's contract as well, right? Like, Aaron Ekblad, I wouldn't hate as a pickup. Dmitry Orlov is another guy that he's not going to put up points, but he is going to be very good defensively. This is the guy that I'm most excited about. Vladislav Gavrikov is a pending UFA. He's in year 2 of his contract, $5.875 million. Obviously, Blue Jackets fans know him well, and I know that we have to stop banging the drum of let's bring Blue Jackets back. But Vladislav Gavrikov is an excellent defensive defenseman. He is exactly what this team needs. Yes, he's 29 years old, but again, if you can get him for, 2, 3, 4 years, give the defense, the guys like Charlie Ellick, the time to develop. Whoever the Blue Jackets take in the draft this year, there's something there. The only problem is Gavrikov, I believe, is a left defenseman. Blue Jackets have Werenski and Matejchuk down the left side at the minute. Ideally, they need a right defenseman. And I'm not super familiar with right shot defensemen. Who is a right defenseman and who is a left defenseman? It's just defenseman, right? But the fact of the matter is, the pickings are slim right now. There's Ryan Lindgren, who is a potential option. Again, another guy that is around about Werenski's age, which I think is the age to start okay, maybe this is a guy that we look at. Hasn't been great for the Rangers this year. Has been slightly better for the Avs. Isn't making a ton of money. Is on the younger side of veteran. Is that an option? We're getting right into it now. Nate Schmidt is on here. Again, he has been shockingly good for the Florida Panthers. That he might get priced out, considering the Panthers now have to pay Seth Jones, and their cap situation is going to be a bit wild. He's only making $800,000 a year right now. He's 33 years old. I don't think he's a guy that you give a lot of money to, but is he a guy that you throw a 1 year a show me contract to, right? Give him $1.5 million, see what happens, just to kind of stabilize. He's a very good defenseman. He's a very good defensive defenseman, I should say. You don't need to sell the farm for him. He could be an interesting option. So there are options at improving the defense. Obviously there are trades available as well. There is the option, Dante Fabro needs a contract. I imagine that they'll try and make that happen. Ivan Provorov needs a contract. I don't know what's going to happen there at the minute. Erica Branson still has a year left on his contract. Obviously, Werenski will be there next year. Matejchuk will be there next year. Christensen will probably be there next year. You don't have to do a lot to improve this defense, I don't think. And maybe that's me being, overly hopeful. But with Werenski, Fabro, Matejchuk, you're halfway there, in my opinion. Find a defense partner for Matejchuk, and that might be Nate Schmidt, for example. Find him an adult to play with. Give him 2 years, 1 year, 2 years. See where you're at. I don't want to necessarily, unless it depends on what contract Fabro is going to get. Depends on what contract Provorov is going to get if he gets one. I don't necessarily want to saddle this defensive core with another big long-term contract, right? I believe Werenski's contract is up soon-ish. Not soon, but I think he has 3 years left on his contract. Maybe including this year, maybe not including this year. So, again, that's something you're going to have to pay attention to. But the defense is going to be, I think the defense is something, yes, you need to pay attention to. Yes, you need to think about. But I am hesitant to make big moves for defense just because we've been burnt before. And honestly, I don't know who's out there that would improve this team enough to make them worth giving a large amount of money to, right? And then, there are trades, obviously. I don't, again, young defensemen that are struggling in this. That's how they got Dante Fabro. And Dante Fabro is not necessarily a young defenseman. I think he's, 25, 26? But he's a guy that, you got for free, basically, out of just pure luck. There's pieces to pick up. I just don't know who those pieces are. It's going to be a lot easier to approach the forwards than the defense. even though I think the defense needs slightly more help. Now, the biggest problem for me anyway, goaltending. What do you do with goaltending? Do you buy Elvis out, for example? Do you hope that you can figure out a way to get a good goalie in UFA? Do you trade a bunch to give up for a goalie? Like, again, I'm looking at save percentage right now of UFA. There's only 16 UFA goaltenders. And I'm one of that includes Robin Lehner, Chris Driedger, and Hunter Shepard, none of whom who have played NHL games this year. So really, there's 13 guys to look at. Now, Hunter Shepard has been excellent in the AHL for the Hershey Bears for quite a while now. So again, is there something there? I don't know. But when you look at the guys that are available, Frederik Andersen is 35 years old. Jake Allen is 34. Anton Forsberg, 30. Marc-Andre Fleury, 40. James Reimer, 37. Those are your top 5 UFA goalies in terms of save percentage. The only other goalie with a save percentage over 900 that's a UFA is Jonas Johansson, who is 29 years old and has a 901 save percentage and is 8-5 this year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. That to me is not the move, right? There's no UFA goalies. That's not how you're going to fix this. So then it becomes, okay, do you target an RFA, for example? Do you go for a trade? Do you try and get, like, for example, Spencer Knight, who obviously Spencer Knight is no longer available, but a similar player like that? Again, looking at players that are pending RFAs right now. Jakub Dobeš is not going anywhere. He's been very good for the Canadians this year. Lucas Dostal, again, not going anywhere. He's the future Ducks goalie. Joel Hofer in St. Louis. I think they want to keep him around. There's only 7 RFA goalies, one of whom is Tadeusz Tarasov. Arvid Soderblom for Chicago, Olivier Rodriguez for the Oilers, and Georgi Romanov for the San Jose Sharks. So the point I'm making here is that improving the goaltending is going to be tough. First off, because it's tough to find a goalie. It just always is, unless you draft and then wait 4 to 5 years. But also, there's no goalies out there that need new contracts. You're going to have to give up assets for a goalie, and then that becomes even harder. Who's available? Like, I see a lot of people being like, well, they should have gone after Askarov. They should have gone after Spencer Knight. Like, yeah, probably they should have done. They didn't. Now what? Right? That went way longer than I was expecting. I was like, yeah, we'll take a quick look at what they need to do to improve next season. And that turned into several, 20 minutes of here are the defensemen that I like and they should go after and how there's no goalies. But take a quick break and then we'll get back. We're just going to really quickly, because I'm running a bit long here, we're going to check in with the Cleveland Monsters, who went undefeated over the weekend and are looking close to locking in their playoff berth, let's say. So we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on, like, little treats for me for doing a good job. Now I budget smarter, I save more, I have fewer treats, but I have more money. So it washes out. Instead of juggling multiple apps, open your banking app and then open a budgeting app and then open a spreadsheet and then go back to your banking app. You can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals all in one place. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's really quickly take a look at how the Cleveland Monsters are doing, because it is better than the Blue Jackets. They are currently 4th in their division right now because the North Division is stupid. They would be, just for comparison, they would have already clinched a playoff spot in the Atlantic. In the Central, they'd be 3rd and closing in on 2nd. And they would be closing in on a playoff spot in the Pacific as well. But because the North is stupid, they are still, I think, 7 points away from clinching a playoff spot. 77 points in 66 games. It's a 583 point percentage. 1 point behind 3rd place, which is the Syracuse Crunch right now. 2nd place feels uncatchable. That's the Rochester Americans, who have 89 points. The Blue Jackets the Monsters, can't catch them. And then the Laval Rocket are probably going to finish as the best team in the AHL, which is a wild turnaround from last season, but that's how it goes sometimes. Monsters are 5-4-0-1 in their last 10 games. They're on a 2-game winning streak right now. They won both of their games as the Cleveland Pierogies this weekend, which was a fun bit of branding that they did. I enjoyed that a lot. And like I said, they need 7. Their magic number to clinch the playoffs is 7. So I believe they're inactive until Wednesday when they play Grand Rapids. I believe if they win on Wednesday, they will go up to 79 points. If the Senators lose, that number the Senators are currently in 6th place on the outside looking in, by the way. They're at 71 points. So the Blue Jackets, the Monsters, I don't know why I keep saying that. I mean, I do. It's because I said the Blue Jackets approximately 1 billion times an episode. Going up to 79 points will mean that there's 8 points between them and outside of the playoffs, which I believe will cut their magic number down to, I want to say it'll be basically I want to say that they're 2 wins away. They are 2 wins away, and Belleville is 2 losses away. The Monsters have 6 games remaining, so a maximum of 12 points available to them. The Senators also have a maximum of 12 points available to them. So the Monsters need to create 12 points of space between them and the Senators, which they're currently 6 points away. So I believe 2 wins will do it, just based on, games remaining, etc., etc. So if they win against Grand Rapids and Belleville loses to Rochester, we are looking pretty good, looking pretty hopeful. So that's good news, at least. Like I said, the Monsters have kind of been up and down for a lot of the season. They were one of the best teams in the NHL, in the AHL, at the beginning of the season. They went on like a 10-game win streak or something crazy like that, and then kind of fell off, probably because the Blue Jackets took their number 1 defenseman away and also their number 1 center for a while, and they keep taking their number 1 goalie away, which, that's, is that an option? Do the Blue Jackets use Jack Reeves next year as one of their starting goalies or one of their NHL goalies? We don't know, but they are still doing some pretty good things in terms of, putting up points. Trey Swansky is 11th in the AHL with 57 points, which is pretty darn good, honestly. Then they've got Rocco Grimaldi has fallen off a little bit. I think he's got 52 points in however many games he's played, so he's dropped out of the top 20, but Trey Swansky continues to do Trey Swansky things, be one of the best players in the AHL. And then they've got goaltending. Again, Jack Reeves has been excellent for this team. He was their MVP last year, and he's been better this year. He's got a 921 save percentage. Right now, there are only 4 guys that have better save percentages than him. And one of those is Caden Primo, who's an NHL goalie that got set down on waivers. And he's only played 24 games. So for guys that have played, the entire season, the only guys better are Matthew Murray for Milwaukee, Mikey DiPietro for Providence, and Colton Ellis for Springfield. So Jack Reeves in pretty good company there, which is fun, and I am enjoying that immensely. This team is going to win or lose on the back of Jack Reeves. If they make it to the playoffs, great. They're going to have to play, I believe they'll have to play the Marlies in the first round. And then they will have the pleasure of, whoever wins that gets the pleasure of playing the Laval Rocket in the next round. But if the Monsters get hot at the right time, and if they get some excellent goaltending from Jack Greaves, which I know they can do, could be pretty fun for the Monsters. I've been joking about rebranding to Locked On Monsters as soon as the regular season finishes for the Blue Jackets. And I probably won't, but also I might just go all in on the Monsters until they get eliminated as well. So we'll see. That's kind of what I've got for today. Like I said, just a quick check-in with the Monsters, who are at the minute much more fun than the Blue Jackets. Tomorrow we'll preview the Ottawa Senators again somehow, because scheduling is stupid and the entire season series took place over 2 weeks. We'll see if the Blue Jackets can figure out a way to A, win a game, but also maybe B, score a goal, which is apparently too much to ask these days. So we'll talk about that on tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening to this episode, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find me on Blue Sky at the same handle without the underscore. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. Thank you once again for listening. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.